Good evening, one and all. It's my pleasure to welcome you to World Human Sciences and Management Conference 2021-22. This is Rudra Narayan Das, Executive Director, Center for ADIVASI Research and Development. We are proud to announce that this conference is conducted along with Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, Central University of Odisha, Koraput, and Ravenshaw University, Cuttack. I welcome our speaker for today, Professor Jitu Mishra, and participants across the globe through watching us through Facebook and YouTube, and who are here. The broader theme of this conference is AGNOTOLOGICAL context, disciplinary practices of social sciences and policy frames. On behalf of Center for ADIVASI Research and Development, I extend my profound gratitude to our Professor Sanjay Kumar Naik, respected Vice Chancellor, Ravenshaw University, Professor Mahadev Jaiswal, Director, Indian Institute of Management, and Professor Sarat Kumar Pandita, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Odisha, and the convener of this largest virtual conference, eminent Indian historian, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda, and eminent policy activist, writer, Mr. Charadat Panigrahi. Dear friends, the main outcome of this conference is to come up with the national and international framework for the education system in future. The crux of this conference will be the use of digital technology such as artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality that is being increasingly adopted after the outbreak of COVID pandemic. We hope this conference would help students, faculties, researchers, and all to expand their mental horizon to help the education system in future. Dear friends, let me share some idea of CARD, that Center for ADIVASI Research and Development is a leading research-oriented institution promoting ethnographic, empirical, and evidence-based research for engaging and addressing the challenges that 21st century globe is facing today. The prime agenda of this institution is to come up with potential policy solutions for social change while believing in the idea of debate, dialogue, and discussion, and with expertise, experiencing, and education. The institution focuses on marginalized communities and work for their livelihood to protect the nature, culture, language, and identity. In particular, the age of modernity has witnessed that change is the only constant phenomena for societal purpose to enhance knowledge, and our information work for them is methodical and avoid paradoxically framework which is neglected so many centuries from theory to become practice. Center for ADIVASI Research and Development sincerely believes in the concept of social marketing, which is seriously looking for non-profit marketing and builds new social entrepreneurship for check and balance mechanism and to glorify generations to come. Center for ADIVASI Research and Development come to serve with the holistic approach of critical thinking in education to fill the gap and to plan accordingly for the voiceless communities. In this field, in today evening, in India, we have got a very wonderful speaker, experienced speaker, is none other than Mr. Jitu Mishra. Mr. Jitu Mishra is an archaeologist by training from Pune's Deccan College, also an educationist. Mr. Mishra has impacted alternative ways of learning and teaching the subject of social sciences among hundreds of the students and teachers across India. Mr. Jitu is an immersive traveler and a visual narrator on art, culture, history, and tourism. Apart from being an author, Mr. Jitu also makes videos on Odisha for domestic and global communities and a native of Odisha also. Mr. Jitu has co-founded Virasat Hind Foundation and Sarna Educational and Cultural Services LLP. Mr. Jitu has contributed immensely to promoting Odisha stories. So welcome, Mr. Mishra, to World Human Sciences and Management Conference. You are knowing happy that you are our 100th speaker, and World Human Science and Management Conference will be celebrated your talk, and you are the 100th speaker of our conference. Welcome, sir. And your topic is as suggested by you, hot importance of tools in new research methods of social sciences. Now, without taking much time, I would like to invite Mr. Jitu Mishra to initiate his talk. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rudra Narayan ji, for for an intro and also the kind of efforts you are making to, bringing uh, the fact-based research. So it's really, really wonderful. It's my privilege to be here as a speaker today. And today I'll be talking more about the tourism, rural tourism, immersive tourism prospects in Odisha. So, when we think about tourism today, I think pre-COVID time and post-COVID time, there is a big difference now. So the whole world has changed, and the attitude towards tourism has changed. So there's a big shift about the approach in tourism. So basically, I'm an archaeologist by training, and my love for tourism go back to early 90s when I was student at Deccan College in Pune, and during that time, at least 3 months in a year, mostly the winter months, I would be traveling to different states, mostly the remote areas, to participate in different archaeological research work with my faculties and also my batchmates, as well as also other students of archaeology. And these trips, we would stay for about 10 days, 15 days in a place, and they were very fascinating. And not for the archaeological discoveries, but also for understanding the lifestyle of people, the culture, the issues in rural India, because I was exposed to living in Rajasthan for some time, in Karnataka, northern parts of Karnataka, in Maharashtra, in Madhya Pradesh, and in different states of India. We would go to the rural areas and interact with people. And then I realized that, I got connected to, the diversity of rural India, and which I found very, very fascinating. And I found that these people have stories, and these stories have a lot of power. So in 2003, I joined in a company called, I started working with a company called Education Initiatives, which is based in Ahmedabad. And my role was in social science, creating content and also train teachers across India uh, on how to, teach and how to facilitate social science more effectively, so that children don't mug up, they understand, they learn with an understanding and also apply their understanding in different real life situations. So that was the whole idea of my, but that was the role of mine at Education Initiatives. I worked there for almost a decade. And in 2017, early 17, I think towards the end of 2016 and 2017 January, I left Education Initiative to start a company of my own called Virasat Foundation, which I co-founded with another person from Pune, and that was registered in Ahmedabad. And the whole idea of Virasat Foundation was to actually work as a bridge between academic and public. So I was selected also in Wipro fellowship, like the seeds money I got for 3 years to for the startup I had initiated. And that money also helped me explore the country more closely, because when I was working with Education Initiative, I would not get holidays, long leaves. So I started traveling to all different aspects, different parts of the country, in most part of the country. And for almost 3 years, before that I had started actually in 2015 onwards, but it it became more frequent. My travel to different regions in the country became more frequent. My idea, the objective, the core objective of travel was not as a tourist, but to understand that how we all are proud of being a country where we have our civilizations going back to 5,000 years. So my objective, my quest was actually to understand how that 5,000 years of history and civilizations have molded my character as an Indian. So that was the whole objective. How do I present myself as an Indian? So I went to different states, to different locations. I lived in Indo-Pak border for, in Rajasthan, in Barmer for 5-6 days, to understand how people living in Barmer region manage their natural resources, especially water, because which is a critical resource in that part of India. And how do they manage the traditional water management systems? And I went to some of the historic cities, mainly to understand how India managed its water resources. So that was one of the objectives. And then, how do we connect culturally with the wildlife? So that was another objective. Of course, art and architecture was there. Then indigenous knowledge system was another aspect. So I traveled to different parts of the country for almost 2 3 years, from Arunachal to Rajasthan and from Himachal to Tamil Nadu. And I came to Odisha in 2018, uh, in mid 2018. And when I came to Odisha, I thought of, whatever I had gained experiences from my travel, I thought of applying in Odisha. So for almost a year in 2018 and mid 2018 to mid 2019, I traveled to different parts of Odisha. And I was very fascinated with the stories of Odisha, because when we think about Odisha, and especially those who are not Odias, or those who are not living here, they have limited idea about Odisha. So their understanding about Odisha is confined to only Puri, Konark, and Bhubaneswar, the Golden Triangle, and maximum Chilka Lake. Nowadays, little bit of Vitarkanika. But beyond that, the whole Eastern Ghats, the plateaus, the beautiful mountain valleys of the Eastern Ghats, and the Chotanagpur Plateau, and then you have so many river systems. The upstreams of Mahanadi, for example, so many, and in these mountains scape, and also in the rivers, in the wetlands areas, you have the habitats, the settlements of large number of indigenous communities. There are 62 tribes, and many of them are also PVZT. Like 13 of them are PVZT, and they have, living here for hundreds and thousands of years. And what fascinated me, like when I during my travel, is that they have lot of stories to share, apart from the beauty, uh, of the habitat they have, the landscape. They have lot of stories to share, and their understanding about farming, the traditional knowledge system, their agriculture practices, and like the seeds, and then their connection with the mountains, their connection with the water bodies, and the way they do celebrate the festivals or the rituals all associated with agriculture cycles are very, very powerful. I mean, I was very much fascinated with that. And they have also, a range of art and craft, and the food heritage is almost not known, but it is really incredible. A lot of diversity you find in the food heritage, in the food culture. So I, when I was like slowly, I was like visualizing something I should do for Odisha, instead of doing for the whole pan India. So that was that retrospections, I had when I was traveling. So at the beginning of once the COVID started, the lockdown started in 2020 March. So I got enough time and space for myself, because I would not travel at that time like all of us. So there was a restriction, travel restrictions. So then I realized that I must start in new organizations based in Odisha, and that organizations would strongly focus on immersive tourism, craft, and the stories of Odisha, and that should reach to the rest of the world. So that was the whole idea. And then I was looking for people who could be, who could be my partners in this new venture, and I did not know even the names, who would be there. Like, so in I got, in the first month itself, in April of 2020, I came to know about two persons. They became my business partners. One is Rosalind Das, who is a management graduate, engineers come management graduate, because we need someone who could actually uh, take the ideas to the next level, through management, and also, as a business, in the business sense. And the other person I came in contact was Dr. Sushri Mahathi, who is an anthropologist who teaches at KISS University. And I came to know through her Facebook. And when I talked to her, and she has done her PhD on Cuttack tribe in Kandhamal. So three of us, we started, we started brainstorming for almost 3-4 months. And finally in September, we registered this company called Sarna Education and Cultural Services, um, which is a LLP farm and registered in Bhubaneswar, and three of us. And Sarna, all of you know, is the sacred grove in the Chotnagpur Plateau in Mayurbhanj and Keonjhar district of Odisha, also in part of Sundargarh, where the Jahira also it is referred to as, the other term for it is called Jahira. It's also there. So Sarna means like, people will not let anyone to enter their sacred forest, because they consider if someone enters, might the forest deity might get angry and create problems for the community. So that is where they don't let anyone. So this is a kind of indigenous knowledge system, is a sacred practice of conserving biodiversity going on in India, in the tribal region of India, for from time immemorial. So this is how we named this company called Sarna Education Cultural Services. And the whole idea about Sarna is that we will live sustainably, and also for the sustainable future actually. So this is what is the whole idea. And one of the verticals of our organizations is called vertical travel. One of the verticals is called immersive travel. So when we talk about travel, now I am coming here again. So it was, we must go back to 1980s when the Berlin Wall, after the the Cold War was over, after the pulling down of the Berlin Wall, there was a significant shift in the world of tourism. Many of these new countries in Eastern Europe, where actually which are very serene, very scenic, pristine beaches, forests, mountains, rivers, colorful culture, people. So these were for the first time brought to tourism map. So a lot of people started traveling because there was no fear. So a lot of people started traveling for the first time, after a long gap. And that is how the idea of mass tourism came into prominence. And then what happened in India? It was again going back to the early 90s when economic liberations happened. For the first time, we started seeing a rise of middle class populations, and a lot of people, out of for the status symbols maybe, they started going to many of these exotic countries for the first time as tourists, and that was considered as luxury, And if you see some of these Hindi films, like the Bollywood blockbuster movies of early 90s, like Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge or Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, all sort of movies, Shahrukh Khan's movies especially. So, so they revolve also around this idea, like foreign exotic foreign locales and all, like, and that became the trend. And this continued for a period of almost 5-6 years, 7 years, or for the entire decade. And early 2000, when we saw the IT boom, so there was the middle class population rose to many fold. Actually, a lot of people who had not seen, actually a lot of families who had not seen wealth, so they suddenly became rich, what we call neo rich. So then you had all these uh, swanky malls, and then the corporate offices, then the coffee culture, and all sort of things evolved in India. And for the first time, Indians started experiencing a way of life which had parallel with the Western life. So that was the shift. And and the foreign going, going to exotic locations, or within India, there were different ideas in tourism evolved. For example, spa tourism, or wellness tourism, or of course spiritual tourism has been there, but there were kind of new spiritual tourism. So all these ideas also evolved in the country. More and more tourist sites were brought into light. And then the infrastructures were created, new facilities were created. Sprawling resorts, hillside resorts or beach resorts were also came into existence. So all these, this became a trend for almost a decade in India. And especially people, what when we were children in 1970s, 80s, what we would do, like, our tourism, the idea of tourism in Odisha especially, or maybe in India to a large extent, was going in vacations to our maternal aunts, maternal parents' homes, or uh, fathers' homes. Like, that is what was considered as tourism. And we would have interactions with the extended family members. Then if it is a village, and then you spend there, you bathe in the river and all sort of things. That is what I've seen in myself, in my life, in during my childhood. But as people started living more in big cities, the more corporate culture evolved, like the IT culture especially. So people started slowly getting detached. And then there was also cross cultural marriages happening. So both wife and husband would work, and earlier what was happening, they would save money, and once or twice in a year they would go to some exotic locations, either in the country or outside, and spend at least large chunk of their savings, for which they would be working. But as the work culture became more stressed, like there was more demand created, and people's, the working IT people working in the IT sectors or MNCs, they became, the life became very stressful. So they would need a you know break. They would need a break, an outlet to relieve their stress, at least once in a week or maybe once in a fortnight. So, and for that, you can't spend the amount of money, which you would spend once in a year, or once in a or twice in a year. So that is, and they will have to go, the places which are close by, like, 2 hours, 3 hours drive, or maximum 4 hour drive, and then they can stay overnight. So mostly, cities like Bangalore or NCR or Bombay, Pune. So within 100, 200, 250 kilometers, most of these places, the scenic locations, rural tourism, farm tourism, all sort of things came up, where people can go and spend and connect their life, connect with the villagers there, or the rural communities or artisan communities, or there would be some kind of performance. There will be also some chilling out. So all sort of things happen. So that became a regular trend now. And then you will start seeing like a lot of new destinations evolving, which you could label as rural tourism, or experiential tourism, or whatever. And this is, this has been going on for at least from 2010 onwards, 2008 2010 onwards till now. But now we have, like, the pandemic has actually created a new culture. It's entirely shifted now. Now we have the flexibilities of working from home, because nowadays connectivity has become much better. Internet connectivity, you have decent infrastructure existing even in rural India. And now people even are interested to they are not willing to stay in big cities. They want to, work from from some rural locations, some remote locations. And so that they could actually divide their time working, as well as also having a stress-free life, connecting with the rural communities and also the artisan communities. And they can stay there for at least 15-20 days or a month, and then they can move to another place. Only when there is a required, then they can go to the cities of from where the work has been assigned. So this is what is the new trend now. And so this is what, and as the cities are becoming more and more stressful, so people have now, they are looking for outlets, for the breathing. So coming to Odisha, Odisha, as I said before, that when I came here, say people knew Odisha only for the Golden Triangle, that is Bhubaneswar, Puri, and Konark, and to some extent Chilka Lake. But beyond that, Odisha was not known. And comparatively, compared to other states, many of the states, Odisha's urbanization is also not widespread. Only Bhubaneswar, Cuttack metropolitan area is the biggest city. Otherwise, most of the cities you can consider them as small towns in Odisha. But um, in recent years, I am seeing also there is a shift because Bhubaneswar is also following the the path of Bangalore, the model of Bangalore or other cities, other big metros, where going on weekends are becoming a trend, especially among youths and also in the among the middle-aged and families, couples. And then when they started moving, so they are looking some places beyond Bhubaneswar, Puri, and Konark. So now, of course, we are still at the at the initial stage. I think it would take another 2-3 years or maybe 5 years to become more matured. The the idea of rural tourism has to be will take at least 5 years to become mature, because still now we haven't created much facilities to stay. We have to create the grassroots innovator, grassroots entrepreneurs, especially among the indigenous tribal communities, who could actually become good tour guide or trekking guide or hiking guides, or even they can have they can create homestay facilities and all. So this will happen. I'm quite sure this will happen, because as I keep going every year, every month I'm seeing changes happening in many of these areas. In the restaurants are coming up, the roads are being constructed, and so all these things are happening. So um, as I said that Odisha has like there are about tribal communities, and then various non-tribal also. There are a lot of communities within the Golden Triangle also. You have so many secrets. There's so much of rural life here. There is so much of wildlife. There is so much of natural beauty, trekking options, hiking options. Odisha has amazing varieties of food, which we hardly know except the few, counted ones, like, dalma or chenapod or something. People hardly know about the diversity of Odia cuisine. So all these have got immense potential. But the problem is that how do we present it? So uh, that is one of the major problems. If you see, like, if you even look at internet, in YouTube channels, you will find hundreds and thousands of videos on Northeast, Rajasthan and Gujarat. You will, or South India, you will find hundreds and thousands of videos. And there is all they, even in Northeast, they have got a wide network of homestays, which are missing in Odisha till now. And there are very few videos which could actually create, which would be able to influence and motivate people to travel within Odisha, for outsiders, even for insiders. So I used to take photographs. I'm not, of course, a photograph by training. I picked up skills through my own practice, you know because I feel that a photograph has to tell the story. There's no mean if it doesn't convey any idea or story. So I used to do photography, and you know as an amateur, I would say. I would not say as an expert, but I would use a decent camera and use a photography which I would post in Facebooks and Instagrams and Twitter, and also write extensively through my Virasat blog on various aspects of Odisha. And all of these articles, though they are written for tourists and for common people, that they are mostly well researched. And many people even today, they ask me, if they could use my work, what I have written. So that is what, like, but when I in uh, in 2019, 2020, I started realizing that people have lost interest in reading, in at least in computer screens or mobile screens. They are more looking at videos. So I came up with this, I started experimenting with videos. Initially, some of these videos were, they were just dragging. They did not have, of course, they had I worked on the ideas, specific ideas, but maybe because I was not that great. So I started experimenting with new. And today, our channel, we have a channel called Sarna Stories of Odisha, which have got about 100, not 100, 88 videos now so far. And close to more than 900 subscribers are there. And many of these videos, like, are people watch them and they also, give their feedback, their compliment on the videos. And all these videos actually talk about the stories of Odisha, from people's perspective. Because like a waterfall has a story, a hill has a story, and the farming has stories. So we would go and interview people and tell their stories through, and also make it little entertaining so that, people will not get bored. It will be not academic type. So this is what we have been doing. And also there is a startup in US called Teletour, which is working on virtual tourism, and they showcase videos in their apps uh, from all parts of the world from a native perspective. So they don't use the work like what National Geography or Lonely Planet does, but mostly from the native perspective. So we have been assigned to showcase Odisha stories in their channel. So that is what is our partnership with this startup called Teletour in US. So we have already made 15, 20 videos for them on Odisha, and this for the first time, in an international platform, we are trying to showcase Odisha from a native perspective. Of course, there are other channels who have made videos, but they are not from the native perspective. So this is what, and we because since the COVID pandemic is there is a lot of uncertainty. We haven't done much of immersive tourism in Odisha, which we could have done actually, but because of so many restrictions, our guests are mostly from outside, so we haven't done much. But if 4 tours we have in last 2 years we have done, um, two in the Eastern Ghats in the Kandhamal regions, each of 5 days durations, and one in the Satkosia area of Odisha and the Ganjam district, nearby Ganjam district, and then one in the coastal areas, including Bhitarkanika and Bhubaneswar, Puri, Konark, and Chilka Lake. And we were supposed to have one more tour, but because of the Omicron variants, so things were locked down. The Jagannath temple was closed. We could not do it. But in near future, we will be, once things become better normal, we will be doing more of immersive tourism in Odisha, and which will be paid ones, and like we will take them on immersive experiences through the Eastern Ghats, through the coastal plains, through Chilka Lake, where they get chance to interact with people in a fun way, and release the local cuisine, participate in their cultural programs, learn art and craft, and come with an experience that they would not forget in their lifetime. And also, it will also narrow the gap between the tribal communities and the people living in the big cities. So that, because there is a notion that, the tribal people or the indigenous communities are mostly backward, so which is not true. So through our immersive tour programs, we want to connect them, bring them together, so that they there is a mutual respect, and also the indigenous communities also come to know about, the different aspects of life as well, and also um, what are the different options through which they can make their sustainable living. And also in the same way, like people living in the big cities, they learn about the traditional knowledge systems, farming, and also warmth of love and all. So this is what we are trying to do. And the stories of Odisha, as I said. And then we have, like, I used to write blogs, as I said before. And it has been also my dream to uh, bring out books on various aspects of Odisha. So first we did a book, this I'm showing you here. This is on Bhubaneswar, the temple city of Odisha, which was released in April 2021, last year, almost a year now. And this book actually is a pictorial narrative. It's a very small book. This is the first book, a pictorial narrative of the temple city. And it's not written from the architectural point of view, because if you go on a tour, what happens, like, the tour guides give a lot of importance to the architectural aspects. Whereas what we have done here is the stories, how Shiva and Parvati had the Rasha here, for example, in Ekamra Kshetra. And what are the different stories associated with the water bodies of Ekamra Kshetra. And each art motif or sculpture motif has a story to tell. So this is what all these things have appeared in this book. And after that, we got another book. It is the Buddhist heritage of Odisha, which is again in a very lucid language and pictorially, we are trying to showcase the Buddhist heritage of Odisha and to create interest for Buddhist tourism. So these two books are there, and then I am also thinking Konark book is also being written. It's maybe it will take about a month time to get out. But besides that, I have this was a long time dream, because when I'm traveling, I see that every district of Odisha has a potential to come out with a book and of global standard, and where you can actually tell the stories of that particular district, the land. So the first book now it is appeared. It is on Kandhamal district, so which is a pictorial book, and all these books are available on Amazon, both worldwide as well as in India, and also in Bhubaneswar. And so this is the first book on Kandhamal, which again has mostly the stories of the land. It's not a typical guidebook or something like that, where you learn about their food habits, their art, their rituals, their landscape, their complex history, their monuments, the wildflower, their all aspects of the district. So this gives you a feel of the district, which will allure you to go and visit the district. So likewise, after that, we have got a book on Nayagarh, which will be also, I think in 2-3 days time, it will be also available in Amazon. And then Rayagada and Baleswar books are also over. Next month it is there. Both of them are going to be released. And in this year, I am going to actually create at least another 7-8 districts I want to bring. And all these are like priced 500 rupees each, and but 20% discount we give. So this is what we are trying to, in next 3 to 4 years time, we will bring out a book for every district of Odisha, and for the global as well as for the Indian and Odia travelers. Not only travelers, but those who have interest, even educational institutions, because nowadays very few people are interested in academic book, reading. They want more in the story form and in the visual form. So this is what has been an attempt from our side, from me as well, from my organizations. So this is what we are trying to do, and in next this year we will be bringing out more experiences, itinerary experiences in different parts of Odisha, in Koraput and in Mayurbhanj, and all sort of things, where people can go and stay comfortably and also interact with the locals. So this is what we are trying to do, so that in next 5 years time, like more and more Odisha's hidden aspects of tourism, especially rural tourism and immersive tourism, will be available for people. So this is what I wanted to share.
Thank you, sir, for your very insightful deliberation on several aspects of traveling and tours in Odisha, and your contributions are really create a very mesmerizing academic development, and in specifically in the spectrum of research. Your work are very much fascinated. Now I would like to invite Dr. Bikram Jana if he have some queries or questions for Mr. Jitu.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Jitu Mishra, for a very wonderful and very insightful and very praiseworthy kind of deliberation. You spoke about more than 42 minutes and you highlighted several aspects of on the Indian ethos and related to how tour and traveling impacted on huge on social science research, in particular Odisha, what we experienced, and you've gone through many districts and covered and interviewed, and you almost gathering a lot of data and how to interpret it into a book, say, or test orientation. It's very nice and very wonderful. At the same time, I little bit worried about this Odisha contest when we are seeing and we are watching how the youngsters, those are trained in university, how meant for the university going for the best degree. If I'm not wrong, if you heard once to Sailendra Raj Mehta, he was a fantastic economist of our time. He did his MA, MPhil and PhD from Oxford, Cambridge and Harvard. Then he came to India and start research on history because he said there is two subjects in particular the domain of knowledge. One is called philosophy, and philosophy have two branches. One is history and another is mathematics. History is representing science and social science, and also mathematics is representing of science. If you read William Billy, he said the contemporary science and big challenges of history and B history is the most important narration of the new world. New world means those are seriously looking for the planetary perspective questions. At the same time, acknowledgological contest and epistemological violence should be not ignored by the best brains ever we had seen and met. Today, we met a wonderful brain, very young, intelligent, and very fantastic by attracted so many youngsters like me and Rudra and who watching with us in YouTube and Facebook and live. He has a very kind-hearted traveler and he traveling throughout India. He rightly pointed out he traveled from Jammu to Godavari and from Narmada to this Kaveri region. It's very important when somebody is really traveling across the country, what kind of experience he has, what kind of exposure he has. It's really very important. At the same time, we cannot forget about what kind of emotion he captured, what kind of emotion he left for the next generation. When we are traveling, we must not forget to analyzing the emotional and the content orientation
Yes.
tests.
Yes, I
It's
agree.
very important. It's very important. And at the same time, when we capture somebody's emotion or when we capture somebody's voices or we capture somebody's memory, it's more important to these particular contemporary writings. No theory has been constructed in particular the dilemma is concerned for 21st century world. Those are facing today. Rightly mentioned by Mr. Jitu Mishra, he said, pre-pandemic life or post-pandemic, always we historians considered the pre-post and these are the very deeply understanding and kind rooted for the dilemma of knowledge, pre and post. If we cannot signify pre and post, then that should not be considered as the history test. It's really very problematic and very, very unfortunate. When we are going to research, in particular, rural side or tribal pockets of Odisha, I must tell you, you definitely get a very circumstances theory of knowledge and practice. Those are only based on ethnography and those are only based on their cultural psychology and those are based on only their lifestyle. If you are asking me today through Mr. Jitu Mishra, I would love to say the tribals are the real heroes of this entire world. And if you go to the Aboriginal studies and you must confine yourself to the statistic analysis about the tribal minority and marginalized section of the society, you must aware about what kind of real scientists they were. It's no matter you should consider them as the third citizen, fourth citizen, or fifth citizen. It's your challenging voice or it's your challenging task. But at the same time, we cannot forget they are the only son of this soil and they are the real citizens of this country, which you called it India or Bharat Mata. But what kind of emotion we have to celebrate for their idea. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, sir. This is my remarks for your talk. Now
Thank you.
I will just jump
No,
to my
as you said,
question answer session.
Vikramji, as you
Yeah,
said,
yeah. Please.
like emotional connection, like, yeah, of course, I understand that, in this country, we have a very wrong notion about travel committees, and which I think immersive tourism will actually help if the like-minded people go, and stay with them, interact with them. That is one thing. And what has fascinated me, as a traveler, like, when I was traveling to Omkareshwar in Madhya Pradesh on the bank of Narmada, like I would prefer to go by a bus, local bus. So when people saw for the first time, all the my co-passengers, Jai Narmada, and the entire bus like was like, there's so much of emotional attachment that was like a very inner joy, and that actually I realized that how people are spiritually deeply connected with the rivers of India. It's the same way, like, when I was doing my field work here in Chilka Lake, like every day morning, like people when they wake up, all the boatmen, they first do worship of Ma Kalijai. And that's whether Ma Kalijai helps them or not, that's a different thing. But the way they connect to, the spirit of the lake, the Chilka Lake, you know, and the mother goddess, I think that is what is very fascinating. And these are the aspects which actually help you to understand, reflect, and and appreciate the way people in this country are spiritually connected to the mother earth.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Sir, it's no doubt it's a silly question for you because it's a mapping mind series and global dialogue. Then we have to dialogue few questions and you have to say some answer.
Okay.
I know it's a very silly kind of question for you, sir. What is the difference between spiritual and religion in through your travel experience?
See, religion is like it is given a brand, I would say. Spirituality, like, it is all unconditional connection with the Almighty, with an external power. It may be a god or it may be a goddess where you are like unconditionally, connected, related to that. Like, I usually don't go to temples to do puja, but I would say that, when I'm in a very humble shrine, or in a landscape, or in a hill, or in a riverside, or a lakeside, when I look at the world around me, I get spiritually connected. So, which is unconditional. Like, I don't have any expectations, but there is a inner joy in my soul. This is what I feel, I think, and about spiritualism. I don't know whether it is right or wrong, but people have different ways of interpreting it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Second
Oh,
question for you, sir. When you gone through these tribal district, particular from Kandmal, Koraput, and
right.
Kalahandi, and
Yeah.
simultaneously you must visited to Keonjhar, Mayurbhanj, and Sundargarh. Sir,
Yeah.
how do you look at the possibilities of tribal tourism? Not
See,
only South Asian context, it also in global South context. If
tribal
we
tourism, like if it is not properly managed, properly done, it can lead to a very grave situation. Lot of things can happen. It has happened in India and also in many parts of the world. I think you also would know about this. So, like diseases, for example, or trafficking and all sort of things, may lead because, if it is not handled properly. So, I think that, one has to do a lot of screening before you take the travelers to these areas. Hello?
please, sir, please.
A lot of screening about the agenda behind their travel to these areas, and if uh, and then probably you have to take an undertaking that these things are not the thing, this will be not commercial or something like that. Then I think it will work, because And I would say those who have got like-minded people, and secondly, especially the school students or students from different universities, and they also should, whether you call it education tourism or something, I don't know. So they should be encouraged to go there, but not the typical goras who come here, and I have seen at Chatikana Hat in Rayagada district, where about 15-20 of white men. So how their hidden agenda in there. So what was there? So these are the things one has to be very, very careful. So that's what I feel like in today's context.
Thank you, sir. Sir, my submission was that the tribal tourism is one of the core political economy of this state called Odisha, where many opportunities are there. But instead of that, we should always depending upon this mining, because we know mining
yes.
is one of the strategic. Yeah,
Yes,
please.
yes, of course. That.
And please, sir. Please.
No, I understand. I appreciate. The whole of Keonjhar has gone. It has lost its tribal charm. Many of these people who have become, slaves in the mining farms. I would not call them as laborers, but slaves.
And what is your tour and travel concept related to this particular Ithoj concern, sir? In particular, when you traveling many parts of this country and as well Odisha, how you looked at the perception of these people's life, how you looked at their lifestyle and how their food habits changed day by day, and
No,
what
the
is
food habit,
the
for
logic
example.
behind all these things?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, see, there is so much of money of these mining companies or the branded companies in India. So, and they spend so much of money in television advertisement also, or in different media of some advertisement. So if you go like Chatikana Hat today, you will find, the refined oil, like what we buy from the supermarkets here, are also sold in Chatikana market, and the Dongria cons are buying them, where it was not the case 15 years, 20 years back. Are you getting? And within the family, so there are conflicts happening. Like the elderly people they want to stick to their tradition and culture, whereas and the indigenous knowledge systems, whereas the new generations have a different approach. The people who have reached to 45, 50 years old, so they have a different approach, because they have to earn money, so that the market money, so that they can fix their children's marriages or their educations and all. I'll just give one example here. The whole of foothills of Niyamgiri is not suitable at all for cotton cultivations, because you may earn money for 2-3 years or 5 years maximum, but the soil quality start degrading and will not yield anything in the long run. But it gives you enough money for a year or two. So a lot of these local corn farmers, especially those who have reached to 45, 50 years old, they are now into cotton farming, which has boomed. Like when I had gone in January last year, sorry, not January, December, just 2 months back, it looks like a white field. Everywhere is cotton farming. So, so these are some of the issues, which the globalization has created. It has penetrated into the tribal heartland of India and the consumer market. So the expectations level have gone up. So there are conflicts within the family. Some of them are rigid. Some of them are trying out to become like the city people, because everybody wants to have a bike, and to run a bike you have to have petrol. For that you have to earn money, and so all these things are happening. So it's a big question, how far they can preserve what they have been preserving so far. They have preserved so far their simplicity, their indigenous systems, but the future is very uncertain.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And sir, what is your observation during your field visits? but people are talked about their past, how they felt about their past experiences in comparison with present, and how deals they have any kind of knowledge or source of information to materialize or to theorize or even to visualize their future. Have you get any information from them, sir?
Very difficult to get information about their past. Uh, Especially only few people like Bejunis, for example, in the Konth community, they would talk a little bit about the gods and goddesses of Niyamgiri and what the instructions have to be followed and so all these things. But other than, very few people would know about their past. Like even I had gone to a village in Belghar because that was the near the village. The British, there was a fight between the British and the Kandhamali, for example, had happened in somewhere in 1860s. But when I talk to people, vaguely people remember, the elderly people vaguely remember, but not much. So past is almost forgotten because it is also orally, told to them, passed from generation to generations. But because of so many aspects, so many factors, I think it is being forgotten steadily.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, I don't want to waste much of your time, but my brain not stop when I am watching you and listening you. I must ask two more questions if your time permits.
Yes, sir. No, no problem. No problem.
Okay, thank you. Sir, now my question on development, particular post-industrialization era for 1991, when India got so many foreign investments in particular tribal belts or mining pockets.
Yeah.
Sir, how you looked at these particular areas, tribal component, how do you feel any kind of changes in their lifestyle? And second, the KBK planned in 1991, if I'm not wrong, when P.P. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister and the great economist of our country, Mr. Manmohan Singh, was the Finance Minister. At that time, to today, not less than crores of rupees came from cabinet approved from center, and the state cabinet also approved in KBK. And also one more scheme added that is called Biju KBK. Very fantastic and pioneering project and very holistic approach by our state, and the BFS IST also took very fantastic initiation to do in a very fantastic way. How you look when you came to India back in 2018? What kind of development you saw in their villages? Any KBK funding should be diverted or should be confined with their developmental aspect, or it's a only yellow journalism kind of thing?
I don't see, like, maybe see the ideas are good, the projects are good. Maybe I don't know much about the projects, but when it comes to, I think, implementations, see, one problem what I find with the government officers, very few of them have the understanding of the tribal culture and then tribal belief systems. So when and the tribal communities have very limited voice, before the government officers. I would tell you one thing, like, the houses, for example, are all replaced. The traditional houses are all replaced with either pakka houses or houses with asbestos roofs. Okay. And then that is a very negative trend, I would say, because maybe pakka houses, I don't know. But when it comes to the asbestos houses, like, it generates a lot of heat. And so that is one thing. And secondly, what are the essential needs? What are the cultural needs? Because there is hardly any attempt made by officers, the government officers, with how it can be done. I will give you an example of Lanjasora Development Authority. All the PBGT tribes have their development agencies. And 2.5 years back, I had gone there and I met the resident officer of Lanjasora Development Authority. He was a government officer, OS officer, excellent human being. But in 2 days, what I showed them and made him understand about the various facets of Lanjasora life as an outsider, though he had been living there for 2 years, he did not know. And for him, like, for example, there is a blank space, then just do some forestry so that the area looks green. But what plants have to be planted? Now the toilets, for example, every house has a toilet, travel house, and it is part of this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. But 95% I have seen that toilets are not being used. Neither there is water connections, nor they have been told how to use the toilets. In most cases, there is no orientation about the toilets. So these are the aspects where the most of these plans, like the money spent for so-called development, I've seen that they are not properly done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, you rightly mentioned about SRK cinema and DDLJ, Dil Wale Dunno Le Jayenge, related to tour and travel kind of things, because it's based on purely the
Thank you.
tourist and how to look at the London. Then I would like to take some information from you. Sir, when you're traveling throughout the tribal pockets or marginalized areas,
Yes.
how do you look the positioning of Gandhiji? It's like the American speaker cinema or something different? And simultaneously, the second question to with the first question refer.
This is a very interesting question. Like,
Sir,
I think
please
what Gandhiji meant by
let me ask the last question to you, and you can answer both, sir, as well.
Okay.
And what is the democratical practices and the taste of democracy in particular tribal pockets? What they feel about the Indian democracy is concerned? Please, sir, please.
Okay. The first question I would say, like, the whole idea behind Gandhiji's ideas of free India was not to get rid from the British rule, because Gandhiji had always said that India had the India had been accommodating foreigners, I mean, from different parts of the world for throughout its history. And if few thousands British could stay here and live, it would not create problem. What he meant by, the Swaraj, like, the community has to take the decision what they want. The role of government is just to facilitate it. Today, if you look at the tribal society in India or in Odisha, yes, decision making among the tribal communities are very, very poor. I mean, it is not taken probably seriously. They have their own disputes, they do that all. But when it comes to, for example, education, like, hardly anything is told them about their own surroundings in the education system. So, you educate them the way you are educating the children of Bhubaneswar. You educate the same, it doesn't work the same way, if you the same content or the same method of teaching, if you apply in a tribal village of Raigada or Koraput, it will not work. I'll just give an example. Like, in the December, when I was traveling again in the Nyongir area, so there were few small girl children. They were, I saw them, they were floating banana stems boats, because they were told that it's about Boito Bandhana, which is a festival in Odisha, in coastal Odisha. So, but when I went and then I asked them about why they are floating, they said, no, we don't know. It is there in our textbooks. We don't know anything about it. It's not part of our culture. Then I told them about, the Odisha had a tradition of maritime trade with Java, Sumatra and all. As a reminder of the past, we do celebration by floating the boats made out of banana stems. Then they understood, but they could not actually connect what I said. So this is the problem, because their culture, their history, their heritage, their geography are hardly told. So this is what I say, that the Gandhiji's ideas of Swaraj, where the community takes the decision what they want, how they want their children to learn, is not there. Not only in education but in other aspects as well. So now the hybrid rice, for example, or other cereals or pulses have been introduced in the tribal areas, and that is how they are detaching themselves from the roots, whereas they are into depth, and because it doesn't they don't know how to manage with these hybrid or high yield seeds, and then they borrow money and from the middleman, and then they start using pesticides and all. So these are the things happening. So so this is what I had to say about Gandhi. And when it comes to democracy in India, now the awareness is growing, because many of the youths, tribal youths, are now educated. I met one person, like we had a camp, a training program, again of the Deshakon. The one boy, he was maybe about 24, 25 years old. He's doing his PhD at Delhi University in law. So there is what he, when he was in his village, he was telling about his other village members, family members, and the village, his relatives and all, about the democracy and all. So this is, now they are very much aware to a large extent. Even in Bonda communities also, you have now people coming there, the MPhils, PhDs, not PhDs, MPhils, MA, and are doing. There is a boy called Badal Maji who is a MPhil, and he is my helping hand in Bonda. So the awareness is growing. So everybody knows about the importance of Aadhaar card, and what are the rights, democratic rights. So these are the things are happening. Yes.
Anything else to anybody wants to ask questions to Jituji? I thought the silent. Sir, one of my questions for you is, sir, how do you find Odisha apart from Golden Triangle? मतलब आप उड़ीसा को कटक भुवनेश्वर पुरी से बाहर कैसे देखते हैं? What is your experience, that how you look Odisha?
I think I have been like, I am one thing is that what we talk about Odisha, what we try to highlight about is about Kalinga. But Odisha was also Mahakantara. Odisha was also Dakshin Kosala. Odisha had so many other regions which have been hardly told by any of us, So I say that we only talk about 2% or 3% of Odisha, but the rest of 95% of Odisha we don't mention. So like I'm going to Navranpur to do my work research on tribal craft of Odisha. I was just going through the district gazetteer of Navranpur. What fascinated me about the role of Navranpur in freedom struggle of India? There's so many sacrifices. There are so many people who had sacrificed in Navranpur during the freedom struggle. But unfortunately, we only are confined to Bajirao or Bakshi Jagabandhu, whereas we hardly talk we mention anything about a freedom fighter for Navranpur or Nuapada or Kalahandi or or Kandhamar or Koraput or wherever. So so this is what is the biggest. Neither our textbooks we have, or there is anyone who has understanding and brings their ideas about their contributions. So this is what I see, that we have to be pan-Odia. Like if we and in our book today, I had a word with my publishers that if we publish, we will give credit. I mean, equal, percentage. I mean, equal share for all the districts. whatever, a Cuttack district book would cover, like 100 pages book or 115 pages, Devgad district, which is the smallest district of Odisha, or Nuapada district, would also have 100, 120 pages. There will be no discriminations. That is how we will be able to bring, we will be able to give justice to the state for all parts of the state.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Professor Lakshmikant Mishra is raising hands. I hope he want to ask something. Over to you, sir.
Sure.
Professor Lakshmikant Mishra.
Hello, Dr. Jitu.
Sir, namaskar.
Namaskar. Nice to interact with you and getting the opportunity of meeting you online. And nice listening to you and your endeavors and doing a wonderful job. And what is that? Sarna Educational Services or something like that. It's you are giving privilege to the people to see, interact with those non-parents like that of Ganga Jamuni, which is undertaking so the heritage tours. Really, you are doing wonderful jobs.
Thank you, sir.
So the very curiously, I always wait to go through your Facebook postings, and I find many of the postings quite interesting about the terrains. Of course, I visited the places, but still then there are many things to learn, and I find it quite interesting. And coming over to I don't have anything to say about the discussions you have made. You must have been curious on your tour to the places. So the virtually you must be coming across so the material objects somewhere in those unknown terrains. Sometimes out of curiosity, your eyes must be looking for certain tools or something like that. Is that happening or not?
Yes, sir. I do a lot of research before I make any trip, at least for a week, and then I start building up contacts there. I will give you an example. Like there is a community called Devguru in Khariyar, Nuapada.
Okay.
They are minstrels. So, they actually sing the songs of Ma Lakshmi, Goddess Lakshmi's, and they make also, the idols of Goddess Lakshmi's in paddy. So that is how we owe our origin. The origin of paddy craft goes. So they go and give to every household, and by singing, and in return they get in kind. And unfortunately, nobody knows in Odisha about that. Like we all talk about Daskathia, we talk about Pala, but we don't talk about these Devgur communities who are also minstrels. And so I was very fascinated. So I spent a day with them, talking to them, understand their aspects, and that I brought out in a video format. And again, it will be also appearing in the book. So likewise, like a lot of these small things, interesting aspects of various aspects of Odisha, which we don't know actually. Those who living in cities like Bhubaneswar, Cuttack, or especially in this part of Odisha, we do not know. I think that those stories have to be brought, and wherever I have gone, I have got a lot of cooperations, lot of love, warmth from people. They give food at their homes, and they're very simple, very humble, and without having any expectations. Even when I make and share the videos, also they say that thank you so much. That's all. So these are the things I think I do.
No,
And then I use my
Dr.
camera
Jitu,
extensively.
okay.
Sir.
Dr. Jitu, what I was inquiring from you,
Yes.
and whether you're coming across any archaeological sites or something like that during the course of your visit,
Yes.
and you must be coming across, and your eyes must be searching for that, because you are trained in archaeology.
Trained archaeologist. Yes. Yeah. Yes. But archaeology would require a lot of more time and dedications. And if I come across, my interest was there for priestry, of course, but
That
now yes, sir.
yeah, I'm
My
listening.
My interest is there always for priestry, and but when I get time, I go some of these rock art sites and all, and also to make aware of, like for example, Sankerjang in which is where you have the Jindal steel plant now in Angul.
Okay.
There, the Sankerjang is the site where you have the earliest musical instruments of Odisha, the bar sets, huge size bar sets, which have been reported and they are kept in state museums. So the kind of, those kind of aspects, I'm very much fascinated, and their stories I want to tell actually to people. So, so these are the things I'm looking at, but I have not come across a new archaeological site so far.
Yeah.
That requires a different kind of dedications and different kind of methodology.
Naturally, no, because you are a trained archaeologist and worked with the PM Mishra, and so that is what I was thinking. If you are tall, sometimes
Yeah,
your eyes would be looking.
of course, there I keep asking people also, but yeah, but so far in last 3 years I have not done much of archaeological work. More of
Okay.
visual stories, and I have done.
Okay. No,
I will do that. I will definitely do it because I'm in close connection with Ota, Professor Ota, SB Ota.
yeah.
I'm now working with AB Ota, Akhil Beri Ota. I'm working on a project we started from 1st February. And Basa, I know we have worked together for many years. And so, but he's now terribly busy after he became Vice Chancellor. Today I called him.
Actually,
for only 5 minutes.
Simadri and myself, both of us were working in a BN Mishra's project in Narsinghpur district. And actually,
Hasan was there. His PhD was on there, geomorphology of Narsinghpur district. Professor Rajguru was also there.
Yeah, no, that Sambalpur site, actually Sambalpur
His
site.
PhD was on Hasan, who was from Bangladesh, was on geoarchaeology of Sambalpur.
No, so the Bangladeshi boy didn't do work on Sambalpur.
Yes, Hasan, his name. He was student of Dr. Rajguru.
Yeah.
SN Rajguru.
No, yeah, Sambalpur actually, Sambalpur, myself and Ota, we too actually discovered that site.
Okay.
Yeah, in the second season.
Okay.
Yeah.
After that, probably it was taken over by Rajguru. Has done some work there.
No, it was a joint project. Actually, Badam, BN Mishra, and Sudhi Rajguru. And he was looking into paleontology and this geomorphology. So the geoarchaeology Rajguru was doing, and BN Mishra was doing prehistory. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But it was a nice experience with you.
Thank you,
meeting you, and sometimes I would like to meet you physically.
Yes, sir.
And thank you,
sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Professor Mishra, for a nice and wonderful conversation with Mr. Jitu. And now, as we we had to spend more time with Jitu sir, but time is now to conclude the session. Thank you so much, Jituji, for your wonderful deliberation. You were rightly mentioned a plethora of ideas, and your works are definitely very much important to new generations and new generation students, specifically the students belongs from history and archaeology, and who want to be a traveler and explore very much things and the unexcavated treasures of our state. They are very much interested to see you. Personally, I am very interested to listen you for the first time, and I was watching your videos on YouTube definitely, and curiously, as like Professor Lakshmikant Mishra said, we are very much excited to read and know about your travel. You are blogging in Facebook. We are very much serious to watch us, and I am also sharing these photos in my department, in my college, and sharing your ideas and what you are trying to show to our undergraduate student. I am trying to project that in our department. So very much appreciated talk by you. Thank you so much for being with us and your contributions and your time for World Human Sciences and Management Conference. I have to acknowledge the institutional contributions here, in particular Indian Institute of Management, Central University of Odisha and Ravenshaw University for supporting infrastructural support. My special thanks to our patrons, Professor Sanjay Nayak, Vice Chancellor Ravenshaw, Professor Sarath Palita, Vice Chancellor Central University, and Professor Mahadev Joyswal, Director IIM Sambalpur, and our conveners, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda, NRTI Barodara, and Charudat Panigrahi, activist and philanthropist, New Delhi. A special thanks to Dr. Vikram Kesari Jena, Director, Center for Adivasi Research and Development, Dr. Nupur Patnaik, Dr. Shubham Das, Professor Benudar Patra, who is joining us from across Chandigarh, and Professor Lakshmikant Mishra, retired professor, Ravenshaw University, to help me to putting this conference together, and especially big thanks to our audiences who are watching us in Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for being with us, and thank you, sir, and definitely we are looking for future engagements with you. Thank you
so much. It's my pleasure.
The meeting is concluded now. Thank you, sir. Namaste.